everyone, my name is ZeBirdBrain and today we are talking about vectorization. So in part 1, we saw like the basic, just how we could access the vectorization options. But today we're gonna just learn how to push it a bit more. So last time that we worked on this, I imported the drawing just in a black and white fashion, like this. However, when you have such a style of drawing, you have a lot of holes and sometimes you want to have shadows and stuff. So one thing you can do is in whatever software you're drawing on, or if it's on paper or anything, you can use red, green, and blue lines to your advantage. So the black lines, of course, in Harmony will come out as black lines. But if I use here, for example, a neon green line to make the shadows, and these like red lines to make these lines of the eyes, like to be able to separate things. If you do this, you can then use them in the software, and you can use them to make your shadows or highlights or anything, just like I did here. And the fun thing is that this will be separated from your original drawing, so my green lines, if I want to turn them off, I can. Okay, so it's pretty useful to do this. How do you do that? You go to File, Import, and you go to Import Images. And as usual, you go get the right drawing. So mine is going to be this one with the green line and the red line. And I import it, convert as to Boom Vector drawing. And then, I already have my custom preset, but you need to make yours. So I'm going to go to black and white. I'm going to go to plus to make a new one, and I'm going to go to edit to have access to this window. Now this window, like I said last time, is a handful. There's a lot of things to know about this window, so I always recommend to check out the documentation about it. There's a lot and lots of parameters to understand, okay? I'm going to give you the basics, but I swear, if you want to personalize this more, you will have to do some reading. And also, like I said, this technology is kind of old. Still relevant, but it's kind of old, so sometimes the UI is not the best experience ever. Oh well. So I will put this link into the description, so check it out. It is very important because all of these features, sometimes they don't make sense when you read it, but then when you read the description, you're like, oh yeah, okay, that's totally fine. So always have the documentation on hand, very important. So first, the vectorization parameter. On the left here, you have the original image. This is the drawing you're trying to scan or vectorize in the software. And then if you go here, you can zoom on it to have a specific place of the drawing. And then if you go to the button here, it's going to show you how it's going to look once it is vectorized. So you can choose to have no texture. And this is going to give you the classic pure vector look. You can also choose to have a matte generated under your animation. So there's a bunch of things that you can customize in your project. So this is the main stuff. And if this was not enough, you can also go to help and there's a bunch more, okay? So these are all things that don't have any buttons and stuff, but we're gonna cover that in a minute. So into options, there's a bunch of things. So for the input, you have one pass or you have two pass. So which one do you take? If you have a style that is very simple, think of like Johnny Test, for example. One pass will be enough because it's going to use the same pass as the line art to create the color art. If you have a style that is a bit more complicated, like this one here that is in grayscale with lots of textures, it's not a proper like cleanup line because it's a sketch, then you should use two passes because then it's going to make one pass for the line art, and then from this line art it's going to make another pass to create the color art. So the color art will be more reliable for you to color in. And the different thresholds, these determines which values in the scan image that are considered line or colors. So this is how you kind of calculate how strict it is with your lines. Then you have the expand bitmap. So expand bitmap is going to extend the bitmap to detect small variation in the texture. So if you have here like little lines where it's like unclear or things that are very sketchy like this, you could use extend bitmap and this will allow you to sometimes have a better result. Now don't expand it to like 30 because that's too much. Just try with small increments first. Then you have the jag filter. So this is only for cleanup drawing, like very clean drawing. It is completely useless if you have a rough style, because what it does, it removes excess strokes. But in a sketch, you need these excess strokes. So no jag filter if you have anything that is sketchy or messy. Okay? And then for the output, pretty straightforward. Do you want a color art? Or maybe you don't even need one. So if you don't need a color art, just don't have a color art. It's going to be faster and lighter. But then if you don't have a color art, only do one pass, right? Because otherwise it's pretty stupid. You can choose or not to have textures on your line. So if you click on no texture, I'm gonna go here to show you. It's going to, remove the texture like I said before. You can also generate a matte under your animation, though I usually recommend doing it after because it's a bit more reliable. And then you have optical registration. What is this? This is like a very, I think, legacy kind of feature. So if you're doing like a whole animation and your animation paper had holes in it, then Harmony could be able to see where the holes were. And you could just help it being like, where do you want me to put the registration after? Like, do you want it to be on the side, on the top? So this is just to register your peg holes, which I don't think is that common today, but hey, we have it. Optical registration if you need it. It's pretty cool. But this is more for animation, not so much for if you just want to scan one drawing like a background or a character or anything. And then you have the post-processing options. For remove hole, it removes holes of a specific values that might make painting difficult. So this is very good if you think that your cleanup has too many holes. And then remove dirt. Remove dirt is literally dirt. When I was in school scanning those papers, sometimes they would have like cookie crumbs on them. So if I put cookie crumbs in the scanner, I don't want Harmony to vectorize my bullshit. So you can choose to remove the dirt. The recommended value for remove dirt, if you're actually scanning like a paper drawing, is 500. If you're working on a computer, you don't need that because usually you don't have cookie crumbs in your computer drawings. The remove hair is the number of time that the drawing will be analyzed to remove hair marks. But like I said, this is computer. I don't think there's going to be any hair in this. So hair is literally because sometimes when you would scan a drawing, you would find a hair on your piece of paper. So it would have like this weird string in your animation. So you could remove those. So this is just for post-processing, usually to clean your drawing. And then into miscellaneous, you have the close gap, which is going to close gap in the color art so that you can paint it more easily. It is set to 10, I think, by default, but you can just change it after in the software. Like, you can make an additional close gap in the software, so I do recommend doing it after, so don't worry about it. Then the smooth passes for line art before breaking triangles. This is the number of times the smoothing operation runs before creating the triangles that break the line in the drawing. So if you see that when you scan and you vectorize your drawing in Harmony, there's a bunch of weird rectangles that are annoying, you can just bump this value a little bit by 1 or 2, and this is going to prevent triangulation from appearing in your line art. And for the smooth passes for the line art, this is how smooth your line art will be. So if I put 0 and I scan it, my line art will be like not pretty, but if I do 10 and I scan it, you see how the line art gets more and more smooth. It doesn't get more beautiful, it just gets more smooth. It really depends on the style that you want. So this is very smooth at 20. If I put it at 1, it is more jagged, but that's totally fine. Okay? And then into the preview, you can show the strokes that you're gonna see. So the stroke thickness now is 10. Of course, I'm gonna make it a bit smaller so that I can see what the strokes will be. And that is for the basic things about the vectorization parameters. Now, if you go to help, there's a bunch more you can do. And if you want to use those, I know it's not very intuitive, but let's say that I want to scan using these like colors, the red, green, and blue. You can go there, and into the options, if you go down, you're going to find RGB keying option. So RGB generates separate zones for red, green, and blue lines. So if you need that, you can just take it, and really important, you go from the minus, like the dash, to before the semicolon. You take this, you copy, and then you paste it here, and if you press enter, it's going to work out. Sometimes if you take too much, like I take like the space and everything and you put it there, and you press enter, it's gonna be like, no, this doesn't work. So like I said, you take everything up to the semicolon, excluding the semicolon, you put it there, press enter, and if you don't get a message, it means that it worked. I know, very intuitive, very user-friendly. Now that this is done, like I said, there's a bunch of other things you could do, but I'm gonna press on OK. And now that my drawing is going to have the new preset number 4, when I put it in, I will have imported my line art in black. And here these lines have been put in green. And I will be able to paint my character using these few colors. Maybe I'm gonna go like get the skin here. And if I want to get like some shadow colors, I can have these little shadow lines. And then after that, if I want to get rid of the green lines, I can get rid of it. So there's many other things. You could say, you could ask that the green lines are invisible and stuff. So there's many things that you could ask for, but you just have to put them in. And I'm out of time for today. So that's it. And I hope that was instructive. And I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.